Hello everyone, and I'm back again with a second video for the Clash of Kings, the up-and-coming Clash of Kings. This time I'm joined, unlike last time where I had a rent-a-legend, this time we have a proper legend of the scene, the one and only Jez Gurney, aka Macwar.
Hello.
There we are. So Jez is taking, is it goblins or orcs and goblins?
It's just goblins, pure goblins. Well, mostly trolls, but yeah, goblins.
So a pure goblin list, pure with air quote goblin list to Clash of Kings. So we're basically just going to go through his list, same as we did last time with Dan and myself, and go over what it's got and what it's like and how he hopes to plan to do. Because Jez right now is definitely riding a bit of a crest of a wave in recent tournament performance.
Yeah, I took second place at the Elemental Kings, and after my poor performance for the rest of the year with elves, I'm up against it if I want to get a slot in the Masters this year.
Yeah, but you're up for peaking at the right time here. This is the tournament to peak at for the Masters slot.
Well, yeah, my army's beginning to do well, just as Dan's forgetting scenarios and not winning everything.
So we're all looking at it going around with a chance here. The wheels are circling on him this year.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah. He might turn up for the event and play a blinder, so I wouldn't bet against him.
So first up, I think it'd be fair to say are probably your key units in the army, your trolls here.
Yeah, so I just say a bit about the list first, because I tried earlier on in the year different elf-based lists, and I found two problems with them. One, I was right up against it in terms of time for the games on the clock, and two, I was kind of really quite hampered by some of the terrain I came across. So that the idea with this list was it would be something that I could play quickly, because it's not really a finesse list. It's got lots of things that I can throw about, and most of it doesn't matter too much if it gets stuck in difficult terrain. So I don't have to think so hard on the day. I can just throw units around and have fun, basically. Whereas with the elf list, I was having to plan very precise strategies, which on the whole didn't seem to work for me. So as you've seen here, big core of trolls, because not only are they're pretty tough in terms of they can take a lot of damage because they got regeneration. They've also got crushing strength too, so I can throw them into difficult terrain and just still mince things. They're only melee 4, but the hordes there dish out 18 attacks, and they can generally chew through things pretty quickly. Now, I don't tend to use them as we got them up on screen here. I tend to split them up a bit and pair them with the giants, which we'll come to later, because I tend to form battle groups, which is an approach I nicked from Dan, I have to say.
Yeah, it's the same as I do as well in this game. It just the game lends itself to it with the inspiring, etc. You need that kind of control.
Yeah, so generally I'll be putting at least one of those hordes and the regiment, along with the troll bruiser there, backed up with a giant as one battle group, and then I've got the flexibility of either adding in the other unit of trolls into there or running them somewhere else, as long as I keep them inspired. The problem is if your battle group's too big, you start tripping over yourself and you can't get all your units in. So it's worth splitting things up.
Well, one thing I noticed here, actually, just looking through your lists, I've got the PDF open on my other monitor here, and I'm seeing like you've got these two hordes now. One of the first things I'd look at is magic items. I notice you don't have any, especially like the troll hordes. I would have thought would have lent themselves quite nicely, like I do with my zombie trolls, to the elite and the vicious.
Well, generally, I tend to approach a list, unless there's something really key I want in there, I tend to buy the units first and then add the magic items in later as a bit of an afterthought. Now, Elemental Kings, I ran one of the hordes with the Brew of Haste, but it didn't really make that much of a difference. So this time round, I've taken those 20 points and I've bought Bane chant for one of the wizards.
Right.
Because it was quite fun. Elemental Kings, I did pretty well with the army, but I also learnt a whole load of things about it, which I'm ashamed to say I hadn't clocked from just reading through it before. Yeah, that some of the special rules just hadn't quite sunk in, and it had never occurred to me to use Bane chant on the war trombones.
Really?
Which, yeah. I really have no idea why that hadn't clocked, but yeah. So yeah, this time round, I've not gone for any magic items on. If once you start adding in, elite or vicious to them, they start getting quite expensive though. Just having them 190 points and not really worrying too much if one of them dies. That's how I'd prefer to run them, I think.
Yep. So next up we have your giants, I believe.
Oh yes. Yeah, the giants. Every time I take those out at a tournament, I get comments about them. People asking where they can get hold of them, because these are from the models are from a little Italian company called Racola, which if you search for Orc Crusher on the internet, you can find them. They're a hell of a lot cheaper than the big brand equivalent, shall I say?
Yeah.
But I love giants in second edition Kings of War, and I pretty much always use 2 of them in a list, because one giant's good, but 2 giants is frankly a lot better.
It's basic Kings of War maths. If one thing's good, 2 is better. Do you run your giants side by side, or do you split them up?
Now that depends entirely on what I'm facing. Usually I split them up, but in the one of the other armies I faced at Elemental Kings also had 2 giants. So at that point, we had an interesting giant off. With a big clump of giants and other supporting units in the middle, which was quite amusing. Especially as it was fought over bits of rough terrain on the board, and my opponent's giants wouldn't actually balance and stand up. So we had an interesting game with the giants lying down on the table already, which it was mine that could stand up that eventually won. So it was, I think that was quite appropriate. But if I'll generally have a battle group which includes a horde of trolls, a regiment of trolls, a giant, and a troll bruiser.
Right.
All in together. Possibly another inspiring unit in there to make sure the giant's got inspiring as well. And that combination can soak up a hell of a lot of wounds and could also dish out a fair amount of damage. If it doesn't kill things first turn, it will generally chomp through them the second turn, unless there's a lot of heal about. Right. So, you've got to take into account the rolling random number of attacks for the giants. Sometimes they just don't do quite what you want. But
fair enough. No, I see. I can see 2 of them side by side being quite scary to deal with in Mavic. I wouldn't want to face that.
Yeah, I love pairing them with something else, because when the opponent counter charges, they've got the dilemma of do they charge the unit, which they might damage enough, or do they charge the giant? Because generally, unless their unit's really wide, it's going to end up with meaning that I'm going to get a flank on them with one unit on the other, just due to the way that things are on the table. So and anything which gives your opponent a difficult choice to make and runs his clock down, I think is good.
Right. So next up we have the characters.
Oh,
Shocking
yes.
enough, a bunch of whiz.
Yeah, I went a bit crazy last year. Well, no, it's further on before that, when in version 1, and when you could just buy lots and lots and lots of wizards, and I already have quite a lot painted up. I decided to paint another 3 up for this list, which I'd bought and got sitting around. So I have more than I can practically use. But they are great. one of them takes the inspiring talisman. That's the guy with the mushroom staff. I've given Bane chant to the spider wizard there, and the other one is just straight. Yeah. And the three of these guys just constantly lightning bolt here and there, and yeah, they keep chipping away at things.
And for 45 points, you're quite happy just throw it in front of a unit as chaff.
Occasionally, yes, but yeah, generally they've done a pretty good job of surviving the battle so far.
They're not worth to kill. That's the problem. It's only a three dice lightning bolt, and that's basically it for 45 points. It's not. It's you don't want to waste like a 200-point unit trying to kill that when there's giants and trolls running around.
Yeah, and so they just sit there. They snipe. Yeah, sometimes they sit together in a clump and act as their own mini artillery barrage. But they're great. I've had a lot of use out of those in terms of sniping things off the close to the enemy's baseline, which the rest of the army can't get to, or softening things up before I close in for the kill with the rest of the army. So I'm kind of glad that we have got the rule of three on the army list construction, because it would be really tempting just to take a stack load more of them if that wasn't there.
Yeah. And then we've also got that'll be the Troll Bruiser there again.
The Troll Bruiser, who I realised was nimble at halfway through the Elemental Kings tournament. hadn't spotted it. He's great. It's a crushing strength 3. Because again, if you use him at a multi-charge, when the opponent charges back, you often end up getting flanks with him, and because he's not an individual, it's not on a par with some of the ogre characters, but
still 25 points. He's quite tasty, and then 5-point blade of slash and just cause. I'm assuming. Yeah, that's a nice little unit.
So I quite like him really. So.
Right, and what have we got next? Of course.
Yes, the war trombones.
Only 2. You managed to restrain yourself.
And this is not at all for due to the fact that I don't own a third trombone. No, I faced 3 war trombones, and they're only 65 points, but you miss out on other things if you take too many of them. But they were great. Again, I hadn't considered Bane chanting them. I don't know why, but the two of them together just are awesome. If they can gang up on something, cover is not going to help. Stealthy is not going to help. Individual is not going to help. So that they can pulverize pretty much anything. And you're rolling a lot of dice, so you do sort of average out in doing a few attacks, a few damage each round, and
it's not a few there. You're doing if you're shooting them, they're getting 6 hits each at Pearson 1. Probably one of them with Bane chanted, so 6 Pearson 2 hits and 6 Pearson 1 hits. That's going to make a mess of most things.
Yeah, I found if I could delay my opponent for any reason, often with a cheap unit, you can sit these behind infantry and shoot over their heads. So you don't countercharge. You blast away with these over the heads of the unit in front. And if they're in difficult terrain, they've still got the disrupted penalty coming back at you. So it's that. They're really versatile, and it was only about sort of halfway through the tournament that I think I started getting the best of them, because in my warm-up games against Daniel, he obviously knows exactly how bad these things can be, so he takes them out really quickly. Other people weren't quite so lucky.
And then finally, this is the army as a whole. There's a few more units there we've not quite covered.
Okay, yeah. So first off, I'll mention we've got 4 units of Fleabag Riders in there. And no, 3 units of Fleabag Riders in there. That they are really key for the army strategy, because I can use them to shut down enemy shooters, and they got such a long charge range that they're brilliant out of the flanks, keeping things busy.
Ooh.
And
I hadn't clocked that before, actually. I hadn't realised they were speed 10. I had looked at the Goblin list in the past, playing around with it, but I hadn't picked that up, a 20-inch charge. That's nice.
Yeah, and in the past, I've put Brew of Haste on one of them just to.
God, this is funny.
A bit more. But no, they're great, and occasionally they hang around much longer than the opponent thinks they should do. So you throw them in there, and they try and sort of counter them with something, and end up bogged down trying to break through them, whilst I try and pulverize the center and then take the rest of the flanks.
Nice.
Yeah, great for shutting down shooters, all sorts of things. Love that.
That'll be the Spider Riders, I'm assuming, are the other Fleabags then.
Yeah, they're the wolves at the back there. So we've also got some more beasts in here. We've got a regiment and a troop. They are quite fun because if they hit, they can make a mess of things. So people are sometimes irrationally scared of them. So they often end up taking a lot of the missile fire and leaving the rest of the army unmolested. Or if people do underestimate them, they manage to get in, and especially on a flank, then they make a big mess of things.
Look at the regiment. 12 attacks, 3 uptick, crushing strength, 1, only 95 points. Not bad.
And nimble as well. So you can, if the army, if you're up against a small army, then they can advance forward and turn and start threatening the flanks really quite early on, which can be quite worrying for people.
And the last thing I can see there that I don't think we've talked about is just a couple of flaggots.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing with goblins is trying to keep as much inspiring around your units as you can. So I've got one which generally sits behind one of the, or around the Morbeast, and another one which tries to keep inspiring on some of the Fleabag Riders. But the more inspiring, the better with goblins, because otherwise, a couple of lucky rolls and half your army's gone.
And how much do you find the yellow belly affects you?
Well, my main combat units there, the trolls, don't have it, which is good. It's really annoying when the Morbeasts fail. But the one which really annoys me is when you set up a fantastic long range charge with the Fleabag Riders, and they decide to stay put. But by and large, everything's so cheap that you might lose one charge here or there, but you just got to roll with it. It's no use throwing your dice against the wall. Not that I've ever done that, honest.
No.
But it's just a factor of the game. It's not nearly as bad as the animosity rule in a certain other game used to be. But
we are allowed to say its name. It's not Warhammer's not a copyright. Well, it probably is a copyright name, but we are allowed to talk about it. So how? So go on.
Go on. No, I was just saying I don't like to deliberately bash it, because I used to love playing it back in the day, but now I much prefer King's of War.
And so how does this? So what's the sort of overall strategy deployment you go for with this army?
Well, generally the trolls target the enemy's center of mass. So if he deploys in the center, that's where they line up. If he tries to do a denied flank, they'll stick on one side of the board, because they're only speed 6, and that's kind of reasonably average in Kings of War. Meanwhile, the fleabag riders will either go off and try and use a flank, or they'll try and they'll sometimes sit behind the trolls. And first turn of the game, they'll leapfrog the trolls because you can move through units in Kings of War. So yeah, often the enemy doesn't expect that, which is quite nice. So yeah, all of a sudden their big missile unit. Well, they can't. If they win first turn, they can't target your unit because it's safe behind the trolls. And then next turn, it's leapfrogged and it's right up their throats. And hopefully I can start shutting down shooting or start harrying parts of the enemy straight on. But if I can delay the enemy or make them react to positioning of the flea bags, that gives me a chance to try and deliver the trolls where they're needed and do the real damage.
And how do you find you do it scenario? Because I'm just looking at this, you've got like about 18 deployments, maybe 10 scoring units, 11 scoring units, something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. Yeah, 11 scoring units. Although quite a lot of them are a bit on the fragile side.
So far it's done pretty well because large chunks of this army tend to survive, and I've got some fast stuff for objective grabbing. Depending on what the opponent's doing, you can shuffle some of this around really quite quickly.
That's a nice looking army. I have to admit, I'm thinking back to my army. I'm looking at going, I've got a fast army as well, but I probably wouldn't want to face this one in all honesty. So hopefully we won't get to play Clash of Kings.
Well, it's been a while since we played. I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, I preferred it in the past though when it was a bit more of a chump bash. I don't think it's going to be that anymore somehow. You seem to have really sort of found a list that seems to work quite well for you now.
Yeah, I would, like Daniel says, that combined arms is often a really good strategy in Kings of War. So I tend to take a little bit of everything. Although, I have to say I don't have any standard infantry in this one, which is a bit unusual for me. But just try and be able to react to whatever the opponent throws at you.
Cool. Well, thanks very much for your time, and we'll catch up after the tournament, I'm sure, and find out how you get on.
Yeah, look forward to it. Cheers.
Right. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that one. You can comment, you can leave a message, whatever. I'll read them. It's just nice to know someone actually pays attention to these things, that's all. Right, have a good one, I'll catch you all later.